Hello, my name is Krista Sandin, and this is my assignment about the axolotl supergenes for Bio 282 Lab Section, Monday at 10:30 a.m. As my title card suggested, I will be doing my presentation about axolotls. So just as a little warm-up about what axolotls are, they are an amphibian species, and they exhibit neoteny or neoteny. I don't exactly know how to say it, but it means that they keep their tadpole-like gills and feathery gills and also their tadpole-like fin. They are exclusively found in Mexico City in Lake Xochimilco. Again, sorry if I said that wrong. They are a carnivorous species that can grow up to about half a foot long or a foot long, normally around half a foot long. These two last points are very interesting. They have a genome that is about 10 times the size of the human genome and are also able to regenerate some of their lost limbs to a great extent not seen in many other animals. So my basic news article came from New York Times, and it was titled Seeking Superpowers in the Axolotl Genome. So this article puts a huge emphasis on humans' use of the information for the study that I was looking at today. It implies that humans will one day be able to gain this regeneration ability or part of this regeneration ability, and it also has quotes later down in the article that also prove this narrative or help push this narrative from people that are outside the original study. So, albeit most of the information was correct and most of the misleading information kind of came towards the end after a lot of the more reliable information was introduced. However, the outside people they got for these unreliable quotes being put next to the study implies to someone who may not be reading as closely that the study is already being used to figure out how humans can gain from it, which is simply not the case. So the article is titled A Chromosome Scale Assembly of the Axolotl Genome. It was an experiment about mapping the axolotl's genome, and it focuses heavily on the actual methods of mapping the genome and not its uses of that information. Because this mapping is so impressive by itself, as I mentioned earlier, the axolotl's genome is massive, so being able to map it at all is an incredible feat, just it wasn't mentioned in the original article. And it most importantly sets the stage for further research on this scale, where before it wasn't really possible, and now it is because of the methods and the research these people did. Onto the article itself. Here is a picture from it. It is a image of the 14 chromosomes included in the chain. There are only 14 chromosomes in the axolotl chain, as opposed to the more that are in the human genome, but they include a lot more information. As you can see right there, the human genome is only about 2.9 gigabytes, whereas the axolotl's is about 32 gigabytes. So a lot of this information was found with scaffolds and by growing axolotls to then take their genomes and put them all together into a coherent map. So on the left of all these figures is a microscopic imaging of the chromosome. The middle line is a kind of summary of the trends that the researchers noticed, and the rightmost line is the corresponding linkage group. So the biggest difference between these two articles is that the New York Times article focused heavily on regeneration and the potential future use for humans, whereas the original study focused much more about genome mapping on such a large scale and how it needs to be used for future axolotl research or on future creatures with a genome of this size. Now, the real question is why these two articles are so different. And to put it simply, superpowers are a lot cooler than genome mapping. The average viewer probably doesn't understand all that goes into genome mapping, and if they were to read the original article, a lot of it would get lost for them as they don't understand much of the language being presented. Whereas news articles take that and simplify it for an average viewer to read. But because news articles rely on people clicking on their articles, they spin the narrative a little bit, especially in their titles, to make it seem the most appealing to a common reader. And that's why in this case they were talking about how one day humans might be able to have this regenerative ability, even though it wasn't discussed that much in the original article. It's simply to make it seem more interesting to their common audience. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you.